Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. That means you. That means every last one of you. My main concern is that the God that created me, the God that loves you, wants you to experience your everlasting dreams right now, here in these days. And the message that I bring to you is the message of how that must be done. Now, I realize that to speak to you about such a God when the things that I say about today, the possibilities, have only in most parts been expressed to others, including yourselves, in an afterlife. But the reality of it is this. We are living in a world that we are totally conditioned by it. And we think, all of us, we think we're the smartest people that ever walked the face of the earth. But there have been people smarter, much smarter than we are today. Even way back when, there are people who were smarter, much smarter than we are today. In fact, we are not as smart as we think we are. In fact, the reality of it is, we are no different than the people who we have actually said were kind of dumb, the people who went through other persecution in all these various places of the world, who we, with our wisdom, can't see why they couldn't see their way out of it, while at the same time we are going through the same things and we can't see our way out of it. But you got a message that is here. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that I am not playing games with you. Like you, I'm ambitious. I want to be successful in life, just like any man, any adult. And I know how to play the game. And for most of my life, as you, many of you who are successful, hey, there was a path that I traveled. But there was something, ladies and gentlemen, about poverty all around in the midst of so much plenty that I just couldn't take it, especially when I knew that it did not have to be this way. Now, I didn't actually know how or what the mechanism would be like, what tools would be used, but I knew that there was a better way. And at the same time, I knew myself. And in order for me to be able to deal with that situation of those that are hurting, I cannot be racing with you, trying to make sure that I stay equal with you, trying to make sure when you can buy a nice car, so can I. When you can buy a boat, so can I. I'm rushing on that. So in order for me to focus on this poverty thing, I had to separate myself from that. That was a sacrifice I made. That was a sacrifice I made that caused me my first wife. Beautiful young lady. I was in love with her. We came up through a lot of stuff. Young lovers, and we did what young lovers do. And one day, after I had this experience about this poverty thing, I began to love my wife more than anything. But when she found out that I was on a poverty trail, she hated to let me go, but she had to let me go. And the choice was mine, and I could not ignore what I feel about this ugly poverty. And I went through some changes, as we all do when you love someone, they walk away. But I was fortunate enough to fall in love with a young lady who appreciated this guy, who had a desire to see poverty wiped off the face of the map. And she has put up with me over all these years, nothing but love. Made sure I had food to eat, made sure I had a place to lay my head, made sure I had tender arms to lay on when I needed tenderness. A woman that's treated me like any man would love to be treated. I gotta give her a props. But the fact of it is, ladies and gentlemen, the sacrifice had to be made. When you are out there trying to get ahead of the game, when you are pressing hard, it's difficult for somebody like me, coming from a poverty perspective, talking about a prosperity perspective. And I know you trust what you got. And I'm talking to you about changing a system that's predicated on honoring God who put all this stuff together, honoring God by recognizing that if God was able to put all this stuff together, then God should be able to make humanity operate in such a fashion that it can be as lovely as a bouquet of flowers. And God can do that. But in order to do that, we as a people got to allow that to come in our being. Let that be expressed through our action. That is the God that is without, that's coming within us, that's coming back out in the form of peace, in the form of prosperity, in the form of joy. Now, I know that kind of sounds absurd to you, but the sacrifice that I've taken, I only took it because I know what I'm telling you is true. I've been to jail, standing up for laws, against laws that just didn't make any sense. But I wasn't just standing up against the laws. I was standing up to try to get your attention, to let you know that any law that is made that is not just should be resisted at all costs. You don't follow a law just because it's a law. You don't follow a law just because the majority accept that as being a law. You follow a law because you believe in it. If you don't believe in it, you must know something that's better. And if you know something that's better, it's being denied the human race when you fall in line. And you must be willing to pay the price to stand up, because if you don't pay the price for standing up, then your children will have to pay the price. Your grandchildren will have to pay the price until somebody stand up. And the longer it takes for people to stand up, the more difficult it's going to be. Because once you start accepting a bunch of junk, next year you'll be accepting a little bit more junk. And before you know it, you got all kind of junk heaped on you. But doesn't matter. To come out of that junk, however small, however large, you got to start digging your way out. And the way to start digging your way out is standing up for what's right, standing up for what's truth, standing up for what's good. I declare if you stand up for what's good, God will be blessed, the human race will be blessed. And if all of you who got this, who got money, who can basically do anything you want, you can't buy peace, you can't buy joy, and you can't buy love, but you can get away with a whole bunch of other stuff you couldn't do without that money. And I have no problem with billionaires, multi-millionaires. My problem is the broke folks. I want the broke folks to live just like billionaires and just like millionaires and multi-millionaires. And why do I want the folks to live like these wealthy elitists? Because their maker wants them to. Their maker has prepared that in his way of thinking, in his love permeating through all of his creation, that would be the result. And the only reason it does not exist is because we are bought into something else. This is what I'm telling you about right now. You don't hear it. When was the last time you heard somebody talk to you about a nation where everybody was prosperous and didn't have to die? You never heard that before. Even Dr. King didn't talk about that. You never heard that before. And coming from me, I don't think I'm any smarter than you. So don't think just because I got these glasses on I think I'm smart. I'm not any smarter than you. But what I'm telling you is something that's coming from outside of me, through me. And that, my friends, in such a way that I can see clearly. I can see clearly. And so I know that it must be from God, because it's good. It's good for the poor. It's good for those who are not so poor. It's good for those who are doing well to do. It's good for those who are well to do. And it's good for the rich and multi-rich. It's good for everybody. You don't have to worry about crime and violence, because there's no reason to commit crime. There's no reason to be getting upset with anybody. Why? Your dreams are coming true. I'm talking to you about saving this nation while other people are talking about ending this nation. There are people who You probably don't know anything about it, and I understand you don't have that kind of interest. You don't want to go that deep in it. You just waiting to see what the end gonna be. But there are people out there who would like to live even better than they're living today, and they really think that there's just too many of us on this planet, and some of us just need to be disposed of. And if you check your history books, all over the world, they dispose of people like it's nothing. So they could and would dispose of us if they so made that decision. The question is, how would we respond to it? Would we be so adamant about trying to live that we'll try to be over there helping them with guns to kill the other people? Are we so blessed that we would stand up in the light of right anyway and do and require and demand that righteousness exists what as it reciprocates out of what we have done for you, for everybody else? Will we do that? Knowing that many of us might have to die, but hey, they plan on killing us anyway. So why not die for them? Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you something. You might not believe this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I have broken laws that I knew were not fair. And I have done some time. And every time I went through a situation like that, I felt like I was on top of the world. You know, I've heard people, and I've seen people get arrested and they want to cover their heads up. They're ashamed. They don't want to be seen for what they have done. But I have never ever felt that way. I don't care what I've done, because it's all been good. And I've held my head up high, and I want the world to see what I'm talking about. What am I talking about? I'm talking about not another single one of us, Americans, blacks, whites, men, women, old folks, children, will never have to suffer for material gain again unless God Almighty stuck his hand down here in America and snatched it out. Because as long as the resources are here, as long as the commitment for brotherhood and respect for God and one another exists, we will guarantee that to one another. I think that is one of the most fantastic things that ever crossed my mind since I've been alive. And I'm trying to sell it to you. I want you to want it. Think about that. I gotta go now. I don't want to put too much on this release. Might not upload on my old-fashioned internet. But anyway, bye-bye.